We'll call the meeting to order. And I'm wondering if we would mind, and if maybe we had cemetery go first. Would you mind? Because cemetery, yours is going to be, significantly more involved. And Mr. Khan is on Zoom waiting for us. And so I guess in this instance, he's not participating from the public. He's almost part of the committee, so he can speak to us via Zoom if he would like. Can you hear us, Mr. Khan?
He's on. He's
muted.
He's muted.
He's not unmuted, so.
Billy, you're muted.
We will be done with the police budget. Oh, I see movement.
How's that?
There you go.
That's it.
Thank you for joining us. If we're going to work with the cemetery budget first, if you don't mind. It's number 8. We figure you're here first, and you're by Zoom, and yours is a smaller budget, so we'll take a look. That is number 8.
Can I ask a question, Mike?
Yes, go right ahead.
Bill, I'm just wondering, I see that you've got 10,000 in there for road rebuilds. How many years do you plan on, do you have a schedule, or how many years is it going to take to get the roads done? I'm assuming that 10,000.
We're just doing a section. We're just gonna do a section on the main road where the roots are coming up.
Yeah,
We're not going in no major road work over there, because all them trees on the river will have to go if we do, and that it probably ain't gonna go over real well.
oh, gotcha.
So all we're gonna do is go up there and take a section from the building up where the roads are rough, and take the roots out, put some new gravel in and pave it.
Oh, perfect. Nice.
Shouldn't that be on CIP?
Say that again, Paul? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Shouldn't that be in CIP? It's a town road.
It's under 15,000.
Nate has money in the paving budgets for CIP. A lot of it.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good point. Bill, have you talked to Nate at all about that?
Nope. Nope, haven't talked to anybody. We pretty much figure out what we're gonna, if Nate does anything for us over there, we pay him. So I mean, it somewhere there along the line, somebody's got to get paid. It's not a big deal. You want to back it out, back it out. No, I don't.
No, I don't at all. I think it's important. I think it should be done. Yeah, absolutely needs to be done. And I don't think we should back it out at all. I'm just wondering if, if Paul was correct and it should just come out of the roads and streets CIP and not have to be in the cemetery budget. But it's it's left pocket into the right pocket. I think we'll leave it right there and let you do what you want to do.
I can talk to Nate, I guess, and if he wants to carry it, he can carry it. Doesn't matter to me. It's up to you guys. I really, it doesn't matter which way it goes. I mean,
you guys at the cemetery are pretty good at doing your thing and getting it done. And I think leave it right there and let you guys handle your own business. No, I think that's great.
We could use some of that unexpended fund surplus fund. I mean, some of the bond money. Get that done.
Oh, yeah, let's go make it.
Well,
some of
okay.
the-
I think, what I hear is we still have time. If somebody wants to change something between now and the time we vote on it, then let us know. If not,
It's on.
is the committee all right with just leaving it where it is?
I am. I think that the cemetery trustees have done a good job in the past of just getting their job done within their own budget. And I think we leave them alone and let them continue doing their thing. They're doing it right. Don't mess with it.
We don't have to vote. How does everybody else feel?
I think it ought to be in CIP. personally. Town roads, it should be part of
Brent?
it.
You know, the new guy here can go either way as far as I'm concerned, but how has it been handled in the past?
Well, that's come up in a couple of our budgets here, as far as whether it should be in capital or whether it should be in. Jim?
Yeah, I think something like that should be in CIP.
Yeah, kind of sounds like it. It is a
Isn't there money left over with one of the bonds that we have to put into?
Yeah, that's what Paul just
Yeah,
mentioned.
that's what Paul just said.
Would it be a good idea to use up some of that money, the 41,000?
I think it's like, yeah, I think it's like 42 and change.
Yeah,
I mean,
wouldn't it be
if we're
a
putting
good
that
idea
back
to
into
use
roads
Going right
and
into
streets, you could
CIP.
essentially
Going into
absorb
roads and
that
streets,
10,000.
yeah.
Right. Sort of, absolutely.
That's how I feel.
Okay. Bill and Tammy, could you talk to Nate and see if he'd be all right with putting that into CIP?
Yeah, I'll talk to him.
Okay, I'm sorry, Susan, I didn't get, I didn't ask you, I didn't have a chance. Or you're just smaller than everybody else.
I was just looking at the expenses and some of them, like the materials and supplies, looks like it was overspent, but it didn't go up. And I just was wondering why.
What we do is at the end of the year, we
Mhm.
buy all them foundation blocks. So if we have any money left in the budget, we buy them blocks so we can do our restoring, and plus you gotta have them for everybody that's being buried. Like when you sell a plot, you buy the foundation now with it.
Okay. So it'll even back out now, like it was just like over considerably last year. So it wasn't necessarily money left over, or maybe, I guess it was because
There ain't much
payroll
money
was.
left over now.
Okay,
There's usually not much money left over.
okay, all right,
Whatever's left, we buy them blocks, and them blocks run at $2.25 a piece.
okay,
And then we just bill them out to the, as somebody buys a plot and gets buried, they buy the foundation.
okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Any further questions?
So let me just get caught up here. You're talking about the cemetery operations, or you're talking about improvements for the cemetery?
Like, it's a road rebuild.
Road, so yeah, that should be capital improvement.
Bill, anything further that you'd like us to know about your budget?
No, can't think of nothing. I mean, as far as the CIP goes, we got our own CIP and we've got plans already drawn up for expansion. And we're working on the lower piece behind the building, try to decide which direction we're going. But other than that, it basically runs the same every year. It just, whatever's left over, we buy blocks with, and
Yep.
that's about all there is to it, I guess.
Okay. Everybody good? Okay, thank you very much. You're more than welcome to stay, but we're finished with cemetery.
Okay, I'll pass. See ya.
There's a surprise.
How was I not surprised? That was surprising.
Can't blame him.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll go to number 10. Police budget. Okay, yours is big enough and has enough in there. How about if you take us through it?
That was my first question, on what you would like to see.
Yeah, let's go through it by line.
Okay. So wages, starting with the first line, all those seem to jump out. And honestly, in my entire budget, it's primarily wages that there's an increase. The increase on the first line for regular time includes the 2 new officers that we added this past year, one in July, one in December. Or we're still in the process, I should say. We've got a couple people that are starting in this month, but so that increase is for 12 full-time officers as opposed to 10. And looking down at the
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said 12 instead of 10. Last year, it was
10.
10 full-time, but you increased last year by 1.
one in July,
one in July,
one in
or
December.
one in December. So did that make the 10? Or is that, and then you add 2 more, or?
We always had 10. We've had 10 for the last few years, and then we've added 2 this past year. So we're still in the process of adding, because December 1 is not too long ago.
Can I just jump in and add, you had a few officers that left for bigger and better things, one that retired. So you've been down officers all year. So you have hired new officers. They have just been filling the empty holes left by the retiree and the ones that have moved on. So it's not like they didn't hire the 2 new officers. They just have been filling vacancies that were created this year.
Lost 2 dispatchers that moved on to other jobs.
Right.
Full-time officers that went on to other jobs, or one left state, one retired, and now these 2 positions. So in this year, we've had to replace, or we're currently still replacing 7 full-time people.
Right. But net, it's only 2.
Net is 12 full-time officers, correct?
And I just, so that if how come there's a second line there? Oh, I see. On
That was the-
2022, it's 0. Got it.
Yeah.
My mistake.
And then looking a little further down the wages line, part-time wages and for dispatch and officers, I increased that. Due to the shortage of people, I spent that as well as overtime. Those are expenditures that I went over. And so I increased those lines to maintain. I don't know, I'd like to say with the 2 new people in there that I wouldn't have to do that, but I don't know what this year's gonna bring. I don't know with the ups and downs of the market. It's not easy to find people. I think we've all experienced that same problem in the workforce. We're trying, but it doesn't come quick. And then again, the overtime and holiday was increased to accommodate the 2 new officers. And we also had, thanks to the deputy, he caught it, a new federal holiday was added, which was Juneteenth, and the union contract follows the federal. So if they add it, then we have to add it as a holiday. So there's an increase for that. Any questions there, or move along?
So you're 10 or 12 now. That does not include, and that does include dispatch.
That does.
That does. So your part-time dispatch is there. Do you have part-time dispatch wages, dispatchers?
Yes.
Okay.
Fluctuated this year, but I think we got 5.
Oh, okay.
This also includes you 2?
Yes.
What is the union wage increase this year?
3.5%.
3.5?
How does the overtime for the holiday work? You get paid for the, if you're working that day, you get 5.5 or whatever.
Yes, it's, if you work, the union staff gets paid now 12 holidays, sometime late November, early December, in a lump sum. So that's one section of that. If your work week lands on the holiday, because holidays are midweek, weekend, for us, it's the actual holiday, not the recognized holiday. So if Christmas is on Saturday and you're working Saturday, you get time and a half for that.
Plus the holiday pay.
Yeah, this is separate. Everyone gets this. You get time and a half for that day. And we have a special part on our time cards that goes straight time, then we have holiday time. And when you put in holidays, time and a half.
So the details, when you work details, like a little, that's separate,
Completely separate.
that's completely separate. That gets billed directly to whoever hires you for a special
Right,
detail.
correct. It's a money in, money out account.
It's a money in, money out account.
It's a liability essentially.
So I think what I hear you saying is that these increases that you have in your part-time is not so much for people, but for wages. you're not looking to add.
No, we're not.
Correct.
No, we have the existing staff, but this past year, as you can see, I overspent the
Right.
PD part-time by almost 10,000. And overtime, by about 16, almost 17,000.
And that was perhaps filling in for the people as they left. Okay.
Yep. We were anywhere from 2 to 4 short all year.
Did you guys get any COVID relief money to cover anybody on COVID sick leave or anything?
No, and I think once the vaccine came out, that the Primex's stance was they weren't gonna, if you were afforded the opportunity to have a vaccine, you did not, you're on your own.
Wow, that was pretty strong. I don't know if anybody else, I don't know if any private insurance did that yet. I'm not judging it, I'm just saying that's pretty strong.
And I know that we had some people out and they're on their own time.
I gotta believe that's pretty strong, especially since we know the vaccines don't protect you, because I'm fully vaccinated.
A lot of stories about that.
But you're still alive.
Yeah, you're here.
Some people would say that's a plus, some people would say.
Nice generally hit, yeah.
We did fall in line with the CDC and DHHS with limiting or minimizing the timeout to 5 days instead of 10.
Wow.
Because the infection period theoretically.
Yeah, right,
science
yeah,
supports it. Who knows? I don't know.
I just throw this in, I'm surprised, unless it's understood, and I don't want to get too far, but I'm surprised the union didn't push back on that.
Nobody said anything. In the beginning, it was,
Yeah.
the town supported that. I don't think any of us knew what was.
Yeah.
It was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then once the vaccine was out, and everybody had an opportunity, then I think they took a stronger stance on it.
Okay, well, any more questions on wages? Anybody? Telephone?
Telephone, I don't know, it's not a magic number there, but we were over by almost 1,000, I believe, and so I just increased it to the 17,000. Telephone's an anomaly.
Yeah.
We have so many different services in one building.
I know. Whose bills go into who I know.
And we have more than everyone else because we have to have CGIS compliance stuff, which is special connections. And it just all adds up to
I
more
even
money.
took the opportunity to break it down. We have 5 different vendors downstairs
Right.
just for phone.
Oh my God.
Is there, and I'm not suggesting you guys are way to consolidate that and maybe find a savings.
You know, I think they all do something specific that we can't
Right.
have them all do.
Where they consolidate on their own and now they're just a new different one
Yeah.
over here.
Quite recently, we tried to do that with like fiber optics. And once they said what their capabilities are, it worked for a couple departments, but not ours because they couldn't secure it with double, triple authentication to make sure information that's privileged is going back and forth. They had to secure it some way and they couldn't do it.
And there's some ways to, if it's working now, they'll change it. So,
Phone bills are notoriously hard, and I don't know if they make them that way, but the way that their billing stuff goes, it's not like you're paying this much per call and this much per month. It's, you've got to,
And
you
then
gotta
it's so
study it.
confusing, you can't follow it.
Right, you can't follow it, and which is,
that's a reasonable amount.
Okay, on to training.
Okay, moving on to training, I increased that a little bit due to the 2 new people coming on, or the 2 full-time people coming on. And then if you look down at ammunition and so forth, training supplies, I increased that a little bit. Ammunition, we have people shoot here, target practice, but that's up, everything's up.
Ridiculously expensive.
And then travel related expenses to training, I just upped it a little bit again because of new people coming on board.
Contract services.
Contract services, prosecution stayed the same for this year. INC user fees, that's our annual fee that we pay for our records management system. Radar calibrations, I bumped that up $250. We added another radar. Obviously, we added another car to accommodate the 2 new officers.
So you need a new car?
No, we kept one. We retained one.
Everything
We
one.
retained it, so it's the 7th car. We had 6, and we retained 1. So that makes 7. And that's what we needed. We needed that extra car for the 2 people.
How many cruisers are out in town during any time of the day?
Depends on the time.
It depends.
I mean, can you really have 7 cruisers out?
Oh, do you mean use them all at the same time?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
During the day.
Yes.
So you have there's that many people traveling,
Plus
7
you gotta
cruisers
think
traveling
you
around
have-
Lincoln?
Plus you think you have, we don't go to bed, we stay up, we work 3 shifts. So
Why is-
those cars are constantly going. So yeah, and there's times.
So you swap them out and things like that. So
We
one,
try to run 2 people per car that are on opposite shifts.
Okay.
But that's the attempt anyway. And then there, depending on the way our shifts overlap, sometimes we have 3 and 4 cars out at a time. Then on busier weekends, we could have, I wouldn't say we'd have all 7 out there at once, but they all run a different shift.
so you don't run the same car 24/7.
Correct.
Correct. Try not to.
That doesn't include your 2 cars.
That's what I was just gonna add. There's basically 5 line cars that are equipped with the radars, the guns, the cameras, the computers. There's 5 of those. Those are the working cars. His car goes home with him. And mine is the oldest, junkiest clunker that's around. And it's basically a gopher car. I have to go to the court, I have to go to training, you have to go to whatever. And there's nothing in it. There's just a light bar and that's it, and a radio. But that isn't line staff. We would use that for details. We'd use it for roadblocks or something like that. Just
So
like-
the one that's out here, is that one of the ones that was out here, the white one?
That was my car. That was the one that I inherited, the clunker. It was the 14. I drove that for 3 years. And I passed that on.
You gave
The
us, you
same
gave something
one
a gift.
last year. His car last year was the one rotated out.
So you basically, so you're saying you have 5 working cruisers and 2 supervisor vehicles, pretty much.
That's fair.
Makes sense. If you were working a 12-hour shift or 16 hours a day, you wouldn't have as many cars. You wouldn't need as many cars because you're just using your car. Let's say a 12-hour day is, but the other 12, you're either going to run that one to the ground and it's going to have half the life, or you're going to have more cars. Right. So you have more cars.
We didn't up the rotation either. We still have 1 car a year of replacement. So what that does is it forces our fleet to last 1 extra year longer. So we used to replace them every 6 years, now it's every 7 years.
If we continue the
1 per year,
Yeah.
which is our goal.
So there's a cruiser on the warrant, a new cruiser this year, that will rotate in as a patrol vehicle, and one of the oldest patrol vehicle will now become the one of a vehicle for either of you, correct?
Me. I get the clunker.
Like, who gets the
Whichever one's in worse shape will go to, I keep wanting to, go to the DC.
Okay.
Yeah, you should flip the coin.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about dents. James.
Exactly. I don't go very far. I don't go very fast. So
Looking down, contracted services, the computer total care service package went down a little bit. I think that was because most of our computers have been replaced and they're a little bit on the newer side. That's the only reason I can think that went down a little bit. And then there's a lot of different upgrades and so forth through certified. I always get that one mixed up. Not through certified. And that went down just a little bit. Guardian Tracker, that's kind of the personnel management tool that we have that holds various things such as discipline or reward or commendations, the earned time that they've earned and so forth. A lot of that stuff gets logged in that system. I bumped that up by $100. I honestly don't know if it'll go up or not, but everything seems to be going up. And then our recorder contract, that's Acorn Recording. That's the recording service that records all our
Phone lines.
phone lines. I bumped that up just a little. Something that's new to us, and this is the first time I've seen it in our line, is cleaning of the police department. So that was added in there. We found a vendor who's local, and yearly cost should be $7,800, and that's to clean the police department.
So what happened before? Who cleaned it before?
It was a cleaning service who no longer worked for us, and between the previous cleaning service and the new one, it was whoever chipped in. We had a cleaning service.
Yeah.
Twin River? Twin River.
Twin River.
Okay,
Now, do they clean the whole town building and the police
They
department?
did at one point.
So they cleaned, so there was one cleaning service that cleaned both places. Where was that budgeted at?
In town hall.
Town hall. So my question would be, did the money come out of town hall that's now in here?
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah. So
Jamie?
Yes, the town hall cleaning budget went down, yes.
The town hall clean, so that would be under town hall?
Not reflected in here yet, but
Yeah.
it will be
It's not reflected in this budget.
in this and on this, but it will.
Well, there's a little bit of a question on it too. We're still working to finalize the cleaning person for town hall. We don't have that contract finalized yet. Fingers crossed that'll happen within the next week or two. And then the town hall budget will reflect the actual cost of cleaning upstairs.
That's come to that resolution early this week, Tammy, so I believe that we can put in a more solid number. Are we
Oh,
just-
fantastic.
So that
That will go down,
town hall budget one will
will go
change.
down, yes.
$7,800.
I'll-
Well, no, there's only 6,000 in there, right? Cleaning. I'm sorry, 14,700.
14,750.
It
Yes,
was
it's
14,700 for both, yeah.
slightly over, but yes,
So that will come down.
that will come down, yes.
Thank you.
Good question, Paul.
But to your question earlier, we were cleaning the PD.
No,
We could
it
do
just
our-
seemed like, it looked like it was being swapped. And I just didn't see, I was wondering where it was before.
Gotcha. The video CCT surveillance, that was a 3-year project that was set at 11,000 and change for the police department's portion. That 3-year contract is over, it's paid for. I left $5,000 in there in the event that we needed repairs or to replace something or if something happened. Leave that up to you guys.
Backstop.
The
Where's this
backstop, yeah. The video right at the bottom of contract services.
Above ground.
I thought saying, okay. I just looked below.
Looking at this, at contracted services, something that I have not accounted for, and I'm just gonna put it out there since we're talking about it. And I really caught this today, when I was looking over the phone, making a matrix of the phone setup, that our internet provider is Time Warner Cable or Spectrum or both. I don't even know if they're together. I don't know if both companies own each other or
Same
what.
company now.
Same company. Back last year, when we switched to fiber optic, I never accounted for that in my budget. I didn't know it was gonna be that expensive either. So we kind of ran this year just winging it. So I haven't added it in under the internet portion. So I don't know if that's something that we could add, or that's something that
Where's it being charged to now?
so right now, under the internet online, it says internet/star domain /OpenFox cross-agency maintenance.
Where am I looking at?
Halfway down.
About halfway down says internet under
Contracted services.
contracted services. Above
.670
subscription.
year over year. Stay the same.
2670. Oh, internet star domain, yep, okay.
So I looked back a few budgets to see what the internet portion was then, and it was 1,600. And right now, if I do the math correctly on what we pay a month, it's gonna be 4,500,
So there's,
about 3,000 that I'm short.
there's something going on there that ain't right. So you're talking about they're charging you, that's a service charge, that's not for,
See, the whole,
equipment
it's the
upgrades.
it's the whole building, and then we're broken out to how many users we have downstairs. And our portion is, it comes to about 375 a month. I'm not sure what upstairs.
Well, I looked at possibly putting that fiber optics in the firehouse, because the library has it next door, but then they told me it's gonna be $900 a month. I said, forget it. I'm not gonna pay $900 a month for to operate one computer. So that's probably, you're probably about right, Chad. It's probably split between administration downstairs.
I can't think there's not some grant monies available to help you, assist you with that, because because it's not just local police, it's everything, you know, with the
So are you,
Emergency Communications Act, you know, that was around for.
are you saying they're charging that increase to provide fiber services or for the infrastructure?
We didn't have it in the building, and last year, halfway through COVID,
Right,
we had this big discussion about getting in here to support Zoom. And so we dealt with Spectrum or Time Warner, whoever they are today, and they came up with a whole building price, and then they're broken out by the department.
So they're gonna lay new fiber and then,
it's already in.
It's already,
It's already
it's
in.
in.
and so they did that.
Yep.
Did they charge you for that or did they do that as part of the service?
I don't know, John, I may know.
Because that's
I
high,
don't know.
man. I'm gonna tell you, we get fiber at the Nordic for like $200.
Yeah, but I can't imagine that they would do that at no cost. I'm sure it's being built in somehow.
It's municipality.
Yeah, it's
Just
got,
about,
well,
you don't pay for it, but
it pays for itself over time. It shouldn't be that much.
Yeah, but they have more bandwidth probably than the Nordic.
Yeah, I don't know.
Would you say no? Sorry.
I mean,
honestly, we don't.
maybe
pay
they
for it.
do, but they don't have
And you have
40 times more
Municipality,
bandwidth.
we don't pay for it.
But you pay for the installation?
Typically, they'll do the installation free.
That's something we can look
She's
into.
on it.
Yeah, I would call
Yeah.
Spectrum.
It was a shock.
Spectrum bought Time Warner, by the way, so you see some equipment still says Time Warner.
We
It
don't
was a
expect
shock
it.
to us too. When the bills came in, it was a shock here too.
Yeah, yeah.
I was surprised. I didn't.
So that don't sound right.
So are you saying you're gonna change that line?
I'd like to, if we're paying $375 a month, then like I said, we were paying.
Why
roughly
can't we have
60.
Karina look into it first and then let us know? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of times you call those guys and make some comments and things change pretty quick.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief, do you think that that's maybe why you're over on your contracted services, overspent by about $4,500?
That would be part of it. And I also think too that we added a project, bulletproof glass and dispatch this year, and that was another unplanned for something we wanted to do, but we just went ahead and did it.
Where was that?
Dispatch.
Sounds like a good idea.
Where you
Yeah.
come in, that
Yep,
Underneath the
wasn't bulletproof glass?
Never.
plate glass.
plate glass.
One chair. with-
Nothing we would advertise, but.
Seems like
So
a
we'll
good
advertise it
ad.
bulletproof now, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Seems like a good ad.
We're on safety.
That seems different than, unless it was replaced from the original, because the original, they did bulletproof glass and they only made that little thing underneath there so people couldn't get a gun underneath there.
This was plate glass.
Yeah, if you
Really?
see, if you
I
saw
wonder
the
if it's been
difference,
replaced.
What's that?
I wonder if it's been replaced at any time.
we don't know that. That's what we inherited. The glass that was there was probably 3/4 of an inch thick. The glass that's there now is like 2.5 to 3 inches thick.
Yeah.
And it's not the brittle glass that you get. It's more of a kind of a composite.
Right, that was one of the things, I can remember when we built this, but one of the things that was really expensive to put in. That's why they made that little dish that goes underneath there, so we were told so a gun could go in and shoot something.
We were able to do that too. They duplicated that. They made it. So that does it for contracted services, unless you have any questions. Everything's kept everything the same in materials and supplies this year. I don't have the budget right in front of me, but I think there was a little left over from last year, but that's another thing you just don't know. Just left it the same. Looking at vehicle maintenance, I upped fuel a little bit. I don't know if prices are gonna go up. 2 new officers. Somebody should be driving that in a car, at least a couple of shifts a day. And then the maintenance line, I increased that a little bit because now we're gonna be having, let's say, the aging fleet, so 6 years now, 7 years. Moving on to uniforms, I increased that a little bit. Again, 2 new people. And the 21,000, that was earmarked for outfitting somebody head to toe, and those are the 2 new people that we have. And so this year that doesn't apply.
Do we actually buy the uniforms or do we rent them? We buy them, because we wear them out.
And that's head to toe, that's everything, that's the price of everything you would have head to toe. And uniform cleaning, that's a nominal thing. It's set by union contract. I think it's $100 per officer, 150. So I just upped that a little bit because of the 2 guys. So it shows a decrease, but mostly due to that 21,000 taken out of there. Next, the equipment stayed the same as far as portable replacements.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Can you just refresh my memory on what the special operations unit is?
So that is the SWAT team. That's the Central New Hampshire Special Operations Unit. So we remember we used to send people to training. We used to send people to be a member with the SOU. And it's a statewide, they would travel to any contributing members' towns if they're ever needed. It's a SWAT team. They had all the gear, the vehicles, the equipment. We should have something.
So is it a subcontract service that you pay an annual fee to?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
And they'll come whenever you call?
Yes.
And we called them this past
They
year.
came this year, this summer. And if we would have to pay that bill, I guarantee it would have been more than the fee that we pay.
Annually?
No, if we called them just because we needed help, and we weren't a member, they would bill us for every officer's overtime rate. And then let's just say they had 25 officers and then 3 vehicles that they brought up and some special equipment. And I can tell you, we were looking for a person that was not in their right mind, and without their equipment, we probably wouldn't have done it.
So this is just regular officers, not state police, SWAT team.
Correct. This is regional officers, part of the team.
It's a regional SWAT team.
And so you have one guy or something trained, and if they need you, you go join that team.
Normally, that's how it's set up. Right now, we're in transition. So once we stabilize this workforce, then
Then you'll
we'll
have
see who's interested to
a
do it.
team member.
Yep.
contribute.
Back in the early 2000s, I was on that team for about 2 or 3 years. I know that.
I was on the team from Claremont.
So what's the difference between the state police SWAT and the independent SWAT?
Response time.
So response time. So where's the independent one out of?
Various places.
Various
but
places.
I think now they're in Concord.
Concord.
They used to be in Plymouth when it originated. It was the Central New Hampshire team. Now the Central New Hampshire team is primarily moving south as bodies and people have turned over at different agencies, and the commander. Bradford?
Yep.
Son of Bradford.
Bradford.
State police is in Concord, right?
Yeah, they're
Yep.
they're everywhere.
Yeah, but their SWAT members are literally all over the state.
So they would have, okay.
So their response time is
Yeah,
considerably
they could come
longer.
from
is that what
Nashua,
we're-
they could come from Portsmouth, they could come from Dover, they could literally all over the state.
This was originally set up, like I said, in Plymouth, and it was a lot of local departments that had people assigned to it, and so it was amazingly fast. But like I said, it's crept south the last like, attrition, people changing jobs, and
Well, thank you. Sorry about that.
I think that we discussed that once before. I'm confusing. I don't know. Does fire have something like that? Ron? Okay, then it was police. I
We
wasn't sure.
just have mutual aid.
Yeah, not mutual. Yeah, I thought it was different. Okay,
there was a slight decrease in where it says tasers, 3 tasers. There, we had patrol rifles earmarked in there. We purchased them. That showed a slight decrease. That's it.
So any offsetting revenues at the bottom? Is there any reason why the offsetting revenues for like Woodstock dispatch services didn't go up considering the increased cost of everything today?
I think that was,
Do you have a 3-year contract with them, or is it every year, or is it?
we just signed a 2-year. We just, believe it or not, have done our first 2 years. And then starting now, we just signed 2 more years.
Is it on an escalator in it for
We wanted,
CPI or
I think
there should be something, I would think.
next year, there's an increase next year. And that's to help offset the records management system that we'll be switching to and their portion of it.
I just think we should have an increase in it this year. I mean, everything's up. I can't imagine giving someone the same service today, for the same price. No one's giving you the same service, the same price today, that's for sure.
Well, if dispatch, I mean, not dispatch, prosecution services stay the
Yeah,
same.
hopefully that stays the same.
Yeah.
I think that's a good faith thing too. Good neighbors.
Okay, just asking.
And everything else is pretty much, as far as revenues, kept the same. I'm gonna bore you to death.
So on it, 3.5% wage increase, that was all union employees.
Yes.
So, and the union is dispatch and officers,
The record started.
right? Non-administrative.
Right.
Administration's not union.
No, correct.
All right.
Hey, Chief, do you want to add that internet provider, the 4,500 into your budget with Jonna at some point, and then she can get us a revised budget next week or whatever, the week after?
I think, yeah, if we add a number, I think it's roughly 3,000.
A $3,000 increase?
Yeah, because I carried 1,600 from a few years ago. That's what I found in that line, so that's good.
Before we do that,
Your internet is going to go from 2,600 to 5,670, correct?
Karina's gonna look at it first, what we talked about tonight then.
yeah,
Before we do that.
I'm gonna make a phone call to Spectrum before we make that set in stone.
Okay, I missed that, sorry.
so just as a quick math on it is the grand total expenditures, the difference between 21 and 22 is 210,000. And the wage difference is 190,000. So then almost all the 20,000, 10% came from wage increase.
Yes.
So there was some drop in there in other parts of the department that semi-offset some of that. And of the 17% increase in wages, so is my math running this right, is 3.5 of that 17% is contract. The other 15% is choice, your need. Okay.
And the two new officers that are fully intact for
Right,
They weren't funded last year, or as
Half.
much.
half on one month on the other.
right.
7 months.
Questions?
Can you hire a few more officers to get rid of traffic on Main Street?
We're only gonna need about 200.
Yeah.
Yes,
How about if you
road?
got rid of Main
Yes,
Street?
the
What about
road.
Sherman Tank?
That would help.
I think we'd do better if we got rid of Main Street.
We tried.
Put a loop around town or something.
We tried. Dennis wouldn't let it happen.
Careful.
I won't be able to pay my taxes. Probably with Dennis.
I have to just make a statement.
What's that?
Just a statement.
I didn't hear. Don't get
Just a
ready.
statement. I have to commend you guys. Last year, I forgot what month it was. I think it was in the wintertime. We had a rash of car break-ins in the center of town here. It was not only my projects, but other people as well. 2 individuals, they caught them, we figured it out, caught them. But that night, when I talked to Chad and the officers here, you had 5 individual officers, 5 or 6 here, 5 with the supervisor. In the middle of the night, and it took several hours to figure this out. Got a lot of break-ins, a lot of stolen items. I commend you for the good job done, but it took that type of manpower to solve this. And they were in town here, and this would have kept going throughout the town, so. Good job. You needed the police officers here.
We've had on several occasions this week as well. 7, 8 officers to handle something.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're able to either call them in or have people stay over. Yeah. Times are changing. I mean, we all know that.
It's coming north.
It's further here too.
So I'll pose this to the committee is, this budget is one of the largest, has one of the largest increases of any of the budgets we've seen so far. Does anybody think this should be cut at all?
Not at all.
I say no.
No.
Do an outstanding job. How about everybody else?
I'd like to wait till it. I'll wait till the end.
We're not voting on it right now anyway.
I'm waiting till the end. Yeah, I mean,
Discussion?
I guess the total, yeah. When I look at the total, left, everything's in. I mean, I know the police officers need what they need to do the job. I'd like to hear what Karina finds out about the $4,000 or the $3,000 she needs.
Yeah, hey,
I think that's a little, I'm sorry.
that is high. And
That's-
by the way, I can run some numbers because I've run several properties here and find out what I'm paying per bandwidth, per whatever, and find out, because that's ridiculous. I gotta tell you, that's
No,
crazy.
I don't disagree. I'm on the Grafton County Broadband Committee,
Yeah.
so I don't want to say well versed, but I understand, a little bit on those type of things.
You
So
just
I'll
gotta
look into
tell
it,
them
yeah.
no. Sometimes you gotta tell those people no.
And that's not just downstairs, it's this whole building.
Yeah, but that's nothing compared to, like, you were saying you think they have more than we have at the Nordic. I doubt it. We have 104 people there. We have a lot of bandwidth, and we don't pay anywhere near that. So
Neither do we.
now, there's probably some protocols that have to be secured, but I doubt if Spectrum's even doing that. That's
Right. that's
probably
third
better for the
parties,
equipment you guys already own. So
Can I just butt in? We have like less than 40 minutes to get through 4 more budgets and the capital reserve. Can we move on to emergency management, which is number 12?
Thought I did that.
You can't, Tammy takes over.
somebody just tell me to
No
shut up.
filter, it's what I do.
Out of order.
I'll shut up.
I'll own it. All right, chief, you're on.
Well, Tim, in all seriousness, I appreciate your contribution.
Oh, okay, I'm muting my,
At times.
All right,
and I'll turn off the video so you can't see me roll my eyes.
I don't care. Everybody can roll their eyes. Is, yeah, so we can move on to
Number 12.
number 12, emergency management.
If I did that, you would treat me differently.
I kept the budget primarily the same. There's just a few things that I would like to point out. This past year, we're still doing it, the hazardous mitigation planning. And that was a cost of $7,500, but reimbursable by the state for $7,500. Half that project is done. So $3,500 was spent so far. We still have the remainder to go, which is payable when we finish the project. So that's split into budget years. And we're also up for our emergency operation planning this year, which is $8,000, but that's not fully reimbursable. There's a $4,000 match. But that match can be achieved by your time. So I don't know if that's completely clear in the 2022 recommended. I don't know how you treat last year's 7,500 as opposed to this year's, where it splits a budget year and then this year's 8,000. I don't know how to carry that or how that should be represented in the budget.
Other than it's a mandate to the state.
Yeah, if we want to get FEMA money, we have to do it, right?
Okay, good. So it's not a choice.
No, not if we want to qualify for grants. Right. Or federal funding, FEMA funding.
Same thing like water meters. Get her going.
Done. She's on you.
I thought that might spark Smith.
Your eyes rolling.
So,
Okay.
Chad.
Yeah.
Emergency management, does that have to do with, is ever a weather threat or any kind of threat? So is there a generator at the school yet? The school, after all of these, I mean, I can remember as a lot younger man, you know, when we put that old clunker in there and it was working and then it didn't work. I thought the whole purpose of having emergency management was so we could use the school, get the generator, get it going. What's the stall here? What's
Yeah.
the,
The SAU.
what's that?
Yes,
Yes, the SAU.
we can't make them do it unless it's an actual emergency. We can't make them do it.
Can you make them put a generator in there?
Correct.
So with all the grant funding that's around, you mean tell me if we can't get a generator through some sort of grant funding that the school could use, then I mean.
May I, even if we,
I'm talking, thank you. You
No,
always
Tammy,
butt in,
you're not.
Tammy. Why don't you just wait till somebody's done?
Yes, could you?
because I can't hear you all. When I butt in, I don't hear anybody talking.
Well,
I can't hear you all.
but just if you would, you raise your hand, I'll recognize you and then you can talk. Paul's in the middle of a conversation.
Thank you.
All right, I'm done.
So, Karina, is there funding? I mean, you've been
Well,
in the
I'm
business.
I'm sure there is some sort of grant available. I mean, but again, if it's, the SAU would have to be on board because it's, you know, they would have to be the applicant, I imagine.
I
What if I-
think, do they have an objection?
Look, what I'm saying here is that it doesn't matter whether you can get them on board by, I would think, if you could find a grant to do it. But it's not serving the community by not being able to be used. So for all of the administration and the people that are in this room and everybody to sit here and say, well, it's just the SAU, that doesn't do us any good if we have an emergency. I mean,
Right.
come on,
But
someone's gotta
again,
step over the
We
line.
could go get a grant for $10,000 and install a generator and the SAU could tell us, we don't want you using the building as an emergency shelter.
Well,
So
let's
what's the
find-
point of the
Well, let's
generator
find,
at that
let's
point?
find that out. Look, someone's gotta work in, we've got this emergency management. Someone has to work to make this thing work here.
Sure.
And just not talking about it and not making it happen doesn't make it work.
And I think that's going to land in
Mine.
your lap.
Yeah.
Well, because I know this subject has been brought up.
Sure.
We tried it before and
Many
there
times.
was that issue that of not using the school and the roof and whatever.
I
So,
think Ted Smith, previous chief, actually had a grant lined up and the SAU said no. If I remember
So
Right.
that
correctly. Now
sounds
we're
like-
not gonna
We have
use
a
it,
new town manager and maybe she could
work it.
see
okay,
how that works with the emergency management people.
Through hazardous mitigation, that we do that planning, and that's why we update the 3-year plan and childcare center
Yes.
is the emergency
And
shelter,
and now, do we have a generator there?
The community
Yeah.
center.
community center.
No, we don't have it.
I was gonna say, we
No,
don't have
we
a
do
generator. I
not.
didn't think we had a generator at the community.
No, there isn't.
Having been working on this for about
Yeah, that-
a year and a half, the facilitator of this grant that of the process that we're going through to update it, says if you identify this as a primary shelter area, it gives you street cred, for lack of a better term, when you actually try and go get it through the feds. It says, hey, we want to use this as a primary shelter, but we don't have a generator. So all of a sudden you kind of move up the ranks on if you're going to get it for our purposes. Again, it doesn't answer the school debate, but for our purposes, it's kind of one step closer to getting one.
I'm just saying, it just seems to make sense to not let the sleeping dog lie here. And push forward either with the community center, whatever we call it there, or at the school, or both, something so that this town is not just waiting until the day when an emergency happens. It says, oh, we don't have a generator at there or at the school. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
I'll yield the floor, Mr. Chair.
okay. I don't see any hands. Everybody's all good? No. Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Okay, insurance? Oh, sorry, legal's next. Great, number 4.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, legal expenses. So I'm not gonna be able to provide much backup documentation. I'll have to, keep left to Tammy and Jana. But as you can see that the levy, the funding for the levy has been taken off, the sub project has been complete. Code enforcement violations stayed flat at the 30. Personnel was brought up to 30. I know there's 2 lawsuits that are currently involved personnel.
So code enforcement violations, you have $30,000. Is that, any of that recuperable? I don't know if I said that right, but is any of that, can you get any of that money back from whoever the code enforcement violations are against through that process? So in other words, it's a code enforcement violation, and I assume you would have to hire an attorney when that, if it does go to court, or if they settle out or whatever, isn't there any way to recoup some of that?
I think that could there possibly? Sure, but is it guaranteed?
No, I know that. I'm just, I understand it's not a guarantee,
Right.
but it would seem that if it's a code enforcement violation, if you win, or if they say they're wrong, then they should have to pay, someone should have to pay for that code enforcement violation for the
I
town.
think I think everything's situational and all depends on how it's approached. It all depends on the negotiations. It all depends on how it's
Settle out
settled.
of settle out of court.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So,
but part of the settlement should be that they pay the town's legal fee.
That's a nice thought.
it's exactly, it's a nice thought. Ideally, in an ideal world, yes, we would be able to, but is it guaranteed? No.
Do we try?
I have not been involved in a lawsuit in the town of Lincoln. So.
Your time's coming.
Tammy?
Why don't we just try to avoid loss?
That's what I'm going for,
All right,
Brent.
hold
Thank
on.
you.
Tammy?
In that code enforcement violations line, the current case is a junkyard violation case. And we did ask for attorney fees and were denied and are appealing. So yes, we try every time when we can.
Thank you.
And I think actually your lawyer would probably bring that up and say, yes,
Yeah.
we can go for this and go for
I
that.
just want to make sure we try.
General legal's at 105. The landing, you can see, has been removed. Utility assessing, that's for San Souci, who is our contractor for the utilities, Fairpoint, Charter, Spectrum, all those. Legal counsel, DTLA and court, you see that that went up slightly. That is due to the reval. If anyone challenges their assessed value and it ends up going to the Board of Land and Tax Appeals, we'll need an attorney to represent us. So that bumped up slightly. West Street's at 20,000, and then the union contract will be due for negotiation this year to take effect next year. So that's why you see that added in there.
So why do we still have West Street on there if it's complete?
Well, the project essentially is not complete, and I don't believe that the litigation is complete either.
Tammy?
That's not for the West Street project itself. It's only for the Nelson litigation case, which is ongoing.
That's still ongoing?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
That's the previous contractor, right?
correct.
Yes, sir.
So also in personnel went from 15 to 30. Are you expecting a lot of unhappy employees? I mean,
No, what I was told is that there's 2 current lawsuits still outstanding.
If I may,
Yes.
the Wood and Smith trials are both coming up for trial this year. The Wood case and the Smith case.
Okay.
So, and general legal is that everything? Does that mean planning? Is that everything? Does that deal with, what does general legal mean? Seems like a broad term.
It is broad.
Right.
For anything that.
Tammy, go ahead.
It is everything else. I believe that planning has, doesn't planning have a, no, they don't. So yes, it is planning and everything else. And it's also cover any overages on all of the other cases. In other words, I don't, with the personnel one, with both the Smith case and the Wood case coming up for trial, we're kind of hoping that there's a settlement in there somewhere. If there isn't, and they both do go to trial, it's probably going to cost us more than 30,000. We are not erring on the side of caution. We are hoping that our insight is right, and that's why we only put that at 30,000.
And that's the same, that would be the same as the West Street, am I correct? You're hoping to get something there too.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. We're back in the day when legal was 50 or 75.
I'll be honest, I hope that moving forward, we can drop this budget in the future.
But I remember it came up and
It's hard to predict.
It
Yeah,
is
it
hard
is.
to predict, right?
okay.
Big people right sometimes.
Insurance. Which is number 9.
Number 9. So I'm sure you've heard this in the past. We use Primex. It's a large, organization that insures many municipalities and school districts in the state. Our 2022-23 member contribution is $181,892. So it is an increase. Primex is claiming that the increases are due to higher than expected general liability, property, auto physical damage, cyber claim losses for members, and an increase in the cost of property and liability reinsurance.
So their profit level shrunk a bit, so therefore they. needed to go back.
Right, premiums went up.
Right. Okay. Questions?
Interesting. Yeah. So on the legal and on the insurance, is it your intention to take a look at those as well in your program of
Review, shop it
Sure.
around.
Shop it around, but I mean, legal and the insurance is what I was.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, yes. I'll be honest, though, Primex is the biggest name in the game. I've known other municipalities who've left Primex and not received the same service and have gone back to Primex. But I know at one point, I think the town of Lincoln did that as well. Am I correct?
we did.
Yeah, and then ended up going back to Primex. It's definitely something to look into. I know, in Camden, we had Primex, but we also had supplemental insurance for certain things. So we didn't have to pay certain premiums from Primex. So it's definitely something to look into, and legal as well. I put it out in Camden. I mean, it's definitely gonna be,
I think that's great. I mean, whether you whether you hire another one or not,
exactly, that's what I was gonna say.
or use it just as another opportunity in case the one that you have, and it's the same with engineering, I feel. Whether you use that or you have an additional source to use, it's, someone dies and it's all in one person's hands, it's not any good, so
Sure.
it just doesn't make sense to keep everything in one place. Thank you.
Further? Patriotic purposes? 23?
All right, so we have the contract for the fireworks from North Star Fireworks. The contract for this year is 12,000. That's split between the two towns of Lincoln and Woodstock. So our share is 6,000. You'll see that it's a slight increase from last year. Holiday decorations stay flat. Plantings, maintenance, 2,300. That's flat as well. Gazebo electricity stay flat. You will see the new line is new town banners. Right now it's at 4,600, but we actually don't need $4,600. We got a quote originally for a different material. That material didn't really create a longer lifespan. So we decided that what's the point of going to a different material if it's not going to extend the life for the cost? So we can reduce that to 3,000, and that would replace all the banners and the brackets on Route 3 and 112.
So my question would be, didn't the Western White Mountains, what is it?
The chamber.
The chamber does 6 of them.
They do 6?
They do 6.
So are they, who designs these? And so I know the Western White Mountain ones were put up by
By the chamber.
the chamber. So are the ones that
Well, I actually
you're,
think we put them up, but they designed them. and then-
Right, right. So are the rest of the ones that you're gonna put up gonna say Western White Mountains, or are they gonna say?
No, they're town of Lincoln banners.
Who designs those? Is it the town that designs those, or is it?
That is a project that was in the works before I came on board. So I can't
Tammy?
answer that.
They're exactly the exact same ones we have. We're replacing all of the ones that are damaged or ratty or falling apart.
So they're gonna be the same exact replacement,
Same thing, yes.
right?
So we can reduce that by the 1,600 to bring it to 3.
Okay. Further on patriotic purposes? No? Okay. Capital reserve?
Remember where we at?
Who's all the way at the end of the meeting.
What's that?
Capital reserves.
Yeah, what number is that?
I think it's all the way at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, it's in the very,
Yeah. Is that 24 or something?
That's his principal.
That's principal. I don't think that was the FD, or was it in the front?
Oh, it was, I think it was.
oh, we have, there's.
It's usually the second page after your,
In the front.
Second
Mine's in the
And
end.
then we have our, we have
after the operating worksheet.
the booklet.
Oh.
Oh, do you want to go down these as the CIP rep?
Yeah, I was chair, I wasn't the rep
Oh, good. I
for
mean,
for the budget committee.
yeah.
Jimmy was.
Copy on me before you leave.
I'll go down,
I don't, yeah, I mean.
you can answer the question.
No, why don't you,
I
Paul? Go
can
ahead.
answer any questions that anybody has problems like that. I went down by projects in the whole CIP, so I don't think everyone has all of the projects listed.
Have this book.
Yes.
You do. Does everybody have that? I would have to look down through to see.
Numerical list
I
of
didn't look,
pro-
I didn't look at
numerical
this
list of
report versus what's here, and so I don't know how the comparison of it is, you know, or if it's been changed. Has any of it changed? Did the board of selectmen change the capital reserve versus what the
No.
CIP committee did?
No, sir.
No.
Can they do that after planning board finishes it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the budget committee can change it.
Right.
It's just a document. So $30,000.
Paul, are you going down this list? So
Yeah.
I know what I'm following?
Do you want to go down?
Which
what's
list
in
do
the
you want to go
budget, Or do
down?
you want to go down through
They're different orders.
the projects?
Why don't we go with what's in the budget?
What's in the
Yeah.
budget?
Okay.
Okay.
So then it
Makes
won't
sense to do what the budget is.
ask any questions.
We can get it.
Because I'd have to look at the project numbers to find out the difference.
I'm sorry, but I think I misspoke, only because I'm looking through here. Engineering and planning, I'm looking at the CIP itself, and it says that the CIP committee recommended 15,000. However, in our budget, there's only 5,000 there. So I may have misspoke. I don't remember adjusting that.
If it did get adjusted, nobody told me. So I don't know.
And I have the CIP that was approved November 23rd of 21.
Well, so solid waste is $30,000. Last year, there was nothing budgeted in there. There's $20,000 in the existing equipment replacement fund, $10,000 in paving. Fire truck and equipment. Fire department.
Would you like me to present it and then Paul, you can explain the projects if you like?
Whatever, yeah, if you want to do that, that's fine. I was just comparing what was there to what the project list was, so.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Okay, so last year for fire truck and equipment, we had 80,000. For 2022, proposed 65,000, 15,000 decrease. The revaluation, that has gone up 10,000 from 15,000 to 25,000.
Right.
Public Works vehicles and equipment, that actually decreased. That went from 139,000 down to 96,500. The police department equipment, that actually increased by 45,000. That went from 55,000 to 100,000. The sewer system rehab, that increased for 2022. That went from 285,000 to $298. The water system rehab, that decreased. It went from 245,000 down to 298,000. Roads and streets decreased from 128,000 to this year of 123,000. What I have for planning and engineering, last year, 2021, we did not have anything. And I'm showing that we have 5,000 in there, and I've made a note so we can check to see if that did change with the board.
So planning and engineering, I have in my copy, planning and engineering for 2021, there was $10,000 appropriated. In 2022, we have $15,000. There's 5,000
It's
Or the-
5,000 in the engineering, Paul, and then the 10,000 is in the village center, which is a separate CIP.
So
I have them together.
oh, no. The master plan update, we had 5,000. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I stand corrected. You're right, we changed.
Thank you.
I don't know.
So for the Kank rec area equipment, that increased from 19,000 to this year to 49,000.
And what was that for?
Can you hang on a second, John?
Paul, you want to explain what the increase was for?
Tank rec equipment.
Mm-hmm.
See mine, the one that I have is not all of a sudden driving with what you're saying.
Oh, let me find the Kank rec equipment.
It goes to the top of the next page, Paul.
The
That helps.
Kank rec equipment, we have 6,000 this year for the van replacement of the 2018 Ford Transit. We have 15,000 to replace the 2016 Ford Transit. Then we have on the ski slope. I'm not sure what, it's a 2009, and I can't even read it.
It's a snow gun.
It's a snow gun, thank you, I wasn't sure what that was. 5,000 for that snow gun, the 2009. And then we have 10,000 in the repair and replace the Bombardier groomer for 2005. And then we have 5,000 in the snowmaking pump and motor. And then there also is 8,000 in the community center building infrastructure. That makes up your 49. If I've got that correct there. That may not be correct.
That's what mine says.
Okay, everybody all good with that?
I think this should be 41.
All right.
All right, and then the next one, the property and building maintenance, that has decreased from 62,000 down to 43,000. Village Center / Riverfront Park, that remained level for 10,000. The library technology capital reserve, that remained flat at $2,000. And then I show a total of $1,070,096 for the capital reserves. So actually looking at this, what I see on between the Kank and the Kank really should only be 41,000 and the community center should be 8. That would be my error. Because we have 21,000 going into the Kank equipment, 20,000 going into the ski slope, and it's actually 8,000 that goes to the community center. So it
Okay,
would be 41,000 this year for the Kank rec area equipment and 8,000 for the community center. The bottom line is the same. I'll correct the breakdown.
Okay. And
so John, I finally figured out where all the numbers were here that were different, so they match up with that 49,000 for the Kank rec, but in mine for the planning and engineering in 2022, I had $15,000. And that's what I have in my copy that I had, that for 2020.
On this,
Yeah, but it's broken in between the two policies.
It's broken in between updated master plan, but there's no updated master plan in this trust funds, is there?
No, but that's
It's-
engineering. and-
there's 5,000 in planning and engineering, which includes number 2 and number 25, which is engineering in the update of the master plan. And then there's 10,000 in the village center riverfront park.
So they're broken up that way.
Yes.
That's correct.
Broken up different than what I have in this thing.
What's that?
I said just broken up different than what I have right here.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, Paul, is the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Came from the planning board.
We didn't make any changes as to what we approved when we adopted it at the planning board.
Right.
It
Yeah,
just shows up in different lines in the budget as opposed to the total in that section on the CIP that you're holding in your hand, Jonna.
What's that?
That it just shows up differently in the budget, spreadsheet as the two separate things, whereas they're added together in the booklet. And so that's what's throwing us off.
Right, but there's 2 separate capital reserves there
Right. That's
on the
what-
spreadsheet that you're looking at.
Right, but they're
And-
added together in the booklet, and that's just what I'm saying. That's why we're seeing it differently. But we see a total of 15,000 between 2, 5, and 31.
That's correct. That is, it's 5 going in
So we're
one. and-
looking for the 15 over on the single sheet, but it's just not.
Yeah.
That's just the issue.
It's been that way for as long as I can remember.
That's fine.
Awesome, Jonna. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, thanks, John.
And the one difference, so I'll just, the one difference between this and past CIPs is this does not have a 3% inflation in it, built into any of these numbers, right?
No.
Level funded.
It's
It
level
was level
funded.
funded. It was done with all the department heads and the questions that were asked were to support what they were asking for. And sometimes when during discussions, it was stated that, we really don't need this year. We really don't need to do that. We put it in because it's in the fund. And so we looked at other areas where it might be needed and some of it got moved around. And that was done, that was with, Butch was there, Jack, as the town manager,
Yeah.
Jack Daly was the selectman's representative. And then
Which was there for a small part of it.
he was there for the whole
Here's
thing.
whole thing.
If you look in the minutes, he left
So-
halfway through, or more than halfway through.
On the
I'm
last,
not arguing.
no, Mike, but on the last one, he left before we finished it up. You're right, on the last one,
And then when
at the last meeting.
the conversation happened, it was a discussion to choose to do it. It wasn't voted on or anything like that. It was a discussion to do it.
Right.
And it was agreed upon between the three, which is fine, which wasn't there for that. And then later on, I think there was a vote on it.
Right, but I mean, he didn't reply when the department heads were there. I mean, I don't want to push it on him, but department heads made their presentation, we got them to level fund it. There's no pushback from the administration. They were in agreement.
It's one, I just moved that he left before it was over.
Well, it was up the last meeting, but he didn't leave, he was still on board when we're having our meetings.
Right.
Right, we had all meetings with Butch.
And again, I don't have any, I'm not arguing with it. It's one of those, is that's what was done.
Right.
It is a large change from previous year's practice. That's
I
all.
would
I'm
want, I would think you'd want inflation built into the capital reserve if it's done right, but.
Tammy has her hand up.
Yes, Tammy.
I know that the intention of the capital reserve committee is to, for the most part, level fund the CIP every year, so there's less of a tax impact. However, we've discussed several times in several different budgets about adding more things to the CIP, the flooring, the doors, et cetera, et cetera. there was something in police department tonight, the things that should have been put in the CIP, the opinion of some on the board. Is that going to make the CIP next year, if we put all that in the CIP, theoretically, won't it not be level funded or close to it?
Tammy, I think from my perspective, I don't think that the CIP total amount has ever been level funded. I can't say ever. There have been years where it has been. But I think the CIP is just a document that you sit down with all the department heads and you ask them questions about why do you want this? Can it wait? Why do you need this? What else do you really need? And throughout that process, they bring up other things that, oh yeah, you know, we really need this, so we really don't need this, so we would apply that money and we would add new descriptions, new projects, new everything, and change some of the designation of where the money went around. It actually ended up, just so you know, after we went through that process, the CIP ended up lower by, what did we add in each one? We added
We added to the water and sewer.
water and sewer by 30, was it 30,000 each? I can't remember.
It was a good amount.
There was a good amount of money left. I think it was a total of like $60,000 under budget or something like that. And we ended up saying, we really don't need to underfund this CIP. You know, and we looked at where, and Butch was a part of this discussion, where would you put money if you needed to put money back into the CIP? Do we have new projects? And the consensus from Butch and Jack and Nate was that, you know, water and sewer, because of the town's growth, was where we should be putting that money. So we took that amount of money and we divided it in half and put it in each one of those accounts.
Oh, so
Okay.
those are weird numbers.
That's why that's why those weird numbers show up like that. Our intention was not to underfund it, overfund it. We sat there and just let it be what it was, with all the department heads representing what they wanted. And then at the end, when we found out, you know, we were that amount of money lower, we said, we really don't want to reduce this thing. You know, we'd like to at least keep it level.
Right.
What needs to help? And I mean, like I said, Jack and Butch and Nate, that was where it came up, and we thought that was a pretty good idea, and that's what we did. Now, that can change, as I said tonight, it can change at the Board of Selectmen's level, it can change at the Budget Committee level, but that's what the CIP committee did. And that's not to say that next year, if all of these things that we talked about, like the carpets or the floors or the whatever doorways, if those need to come in and those are part of the CIP next year, maybe it's up a little more. You know, maybe you need 3 cruises instead of just 1. I mean, so to me, it's a document that you kind of go year by year and see what the needs are. Obviously, if it's a little lower, I don't know that I would like to see the CIP lower. That's why we chose to keep it level. You know, we could have brought it in at what it was actually at, but we decided that we didn't want to represent it that way.
Plus, a lot of this money is not all spent in one year. It's all, a lot of it goes into trust funds. The money is there for a rainy day.
Right.
And those funds get changed around because you're not limited by the way it is in the CIP. So in other words, all those things that are under public works or water, and they're all, it's only the bottom line number that you're really kind of limited to. It's not all those designations. So they still have a lot of room. If you look at the capital reserve fund balances in each one of those departments or those requests, there's a lot of room there to manipulate if emergencies arise.
Right.
So, I mean.
It's a living document.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a static document, it moves.
Right, yeah, but and as I said, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I mean, the 3% was built to cover inflation down the road.
Yeah.
And so you can put it back in 1 year, whatever.
Right.
You just watch to see how it.
And to address the fluctuations and increases in pricing when you're buying something. If, for example, Lane Hadaway had to buy something for the water plant and then it cost him 3 times as much. Well, next year when he comes back in, he says, the thing I thought was going to be $100,000 was $200,000. We need to budget more money into that, and it gets adjusted that way too, you know. So it works. The process works.
Down the road.
Yeah, I mean, the process does work. It just.
No, put it.
You ask, you just ask questions, and it's
It's a
amazing. how-
fantastic tool.
John,
Correct, it's just a tool.
you're on mute.
You're muted, John.
You can hear me better that way.
Yeah.
Karina, do you want me to ask about the election, what the email we got from Kristen
Sure, if you
on the
want.
election?
Sure.
Okay, I got an email after Kristen had presented her election budget. Between her and Carol Riley, they realized that the laptop for the supervisors was not covered under the town maintenance contract with Certified, and they would like to add $375 annually to her election budget to have it covered under the town contract. So that would be adding $375 to her contracted services. And I don't know if you remember, but when she presented her budget the other night, her materials and supplies under miscellaneous supplies, that was put in at $450, and she had only wanted it to be $300. So if it's okay with everyone to make those changes now and give you this new sheet, or no?
I would say yes.
Absolutely.
You know, we had talked in an email as far as, oh, you mean for just on the one sheet? Yeah, go ahead, because we were gonna do it, remember how we used to get different sheets every meeting? I said, let's not do that, we have our notes, and then at the end,
Right, at the
whatever
end,
has
we
to be
get those.
changed.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
But if you want to give us, this one,
So it will be, so you're gonna remove the money, materials and supplies, and then add the other one.
I'm reducing her materials and supplies by $150 and then adding the $375 in her contracted services, so the laptop is covered.
Yep.
So her new budget would be $7,050.
okay. Yeah, you can hold on to that sheet, I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Tammy?
Just one thing, before we go any too much further, I did send you an email, Mike, as well as Karina, the selectman, and Cheryl Reardon. But I didn't get back in touch with her. She didn't get back in touch with me till about 5:15 this evening. So you got the email probably as you were walking in the door. Next Wednesday, when we have our joint meeting with Woodstock, Woodstock would prefer to have their quorum at their town building, and we will have our quorum at our town building, and they will join us via Zoom with the link that I've already posted, and run the meeting via Zoom that way. We're also going to have a Board of Selectmen meeting prior to the budget committee meeting and conduct it in the same manner. Nate and Tara will be presenting here in Lincoln, more because we have more space than Woodstock does for social distancing. Just wanted to,
It's funny, I thought about that about noon today, as to whether they would want to Zoom in instead of coming. in.
yeah.
Okay,
Cheryl got a hold of me, earlier this morning, and we had a quick conversation, and that's what Woodstock is comfortable doing, so.
yeah, okay. Just one thing I wanted to throw in, and since we have a new manager that's coming on, and it's not meant as a complaint or anything like that. But, I congratulated Paul on his question this evening regarding the cleaning of the town hall and of the police department. And last week, Paul had some very good questions regarding labor. And I sort of would like, we're supposed to, trying to get the committee, and we're supposed to study our stuff and do as much reading and everything that we're supposed to do to try to be informed as we come into these. But on some of these things, it's just, and sometimes I ask the question to a department head, what is it that you think we need to know about this budget? And it's basically opening up a forum. So on those two things regarding the cleaning of the town hall and the labor, it came to me as a surprise of what created that number that was on the sheet. Okay, because the number on the sheet, and when we went through town hall, we didn't hear anything of the background of what was going on with the cleaning service or anything like that. It was just the same number. And I know that this is a living document too. You're still working on things. But one of the things that I'd like is, or I think the committee would benefit the committee, let's put it that way, is on some of these things in the background that you're working on is maybe give us the background before we ask. Because we might miss asking. And the more informed we are, the more understanding we have, and the less that we hear surprises about things that are in the budget when we're outside the committee. So I don't expect to be in the inner workings, and we all know we're all in business and whatever we're doing. I have a board, and they have generally not much of a understanding of the deep daily decisions that are made. And I understand that, and I understand that here. And I don't think the committee, one, we don't have the authority, nor do we want to be in the middle of your day-to-day operations. But some of these things that are in the budget on a one-page sheet don't necessarily reflect what was built into that. I put it to the committee that we go to the meetings or we read the minutes of the meeting so we have an understanding. So I'm just sort of asking, again, somebody that's new, that's here, is if you would keep that in mind as some of these numbers come in front of us, is giving us a bit of detail of the complexity of that number.
You know, sometimes if I may, it's tough because I have a lot of questions about the legal. That's a lot of money. And I know, but I'd like to know more about what makes up those costs. But it's tough to ask those questions because they're legal cases and you can't. But I mean, generally you can say what the cases are and how much you've spent on them and stuff like that. So some of those expenditures, like when you look at the general, you see the $100 and some odd $1,000 number. What does that make up? I mean, is some of it, as I was talking to Timmy about the planning, how much of it's maybe what selectmen use, and how much of it's code enforcement's a whole different thing. So what else could it be? I mean, I don't know. I mean, so, and like with what Mike's saying, if the general legal is made up of a whole bunch of different parts, it certainly would be nice to see that.
Well,
Because general gets pretty broad.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think it's all in presentation. You know,
Sure.
the more you know, the better you're making decisions.
Right.
In Campton, you know, I hate saying in Campton, because I know that gets obnoxious, but on our budget on our budget sheets that you're looking at now, we had a notes column where every line, if it increased or decreased, had a small, brief kind of explanation as to why, whether it's, you know,
That'd be good.
employees,
Right.
6 months out of the year, or something like that. I mean, that's relatively simple to add, and at least gets you, when you review it before you come here, you have somewhat of an understanding. I mean, that's just a simple kind of no-brainer step that we could
Right.
take.
Right, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
And the whole goal is to get the committee and the town and the public a budget.
Yeah.
That's the only reason for it.
And a budget that everyone understands what they're voting on, you
Right.
know, again, I think it's presentation and, you know,
Okay.
Right.
you'll see it.
I mean, it is always the big, that's like tonight, we asked about the police thing. There's a whole difference between understanding what's presented as a budget and wanting to vote for it, because, you know, I understand what the police department needs. Do I necessarily agree with all of that? I don't know. I have to, you know, I'm not ready to make that decision tonight. So, I mean, those are that's where it becomes difficult.
Right.
Is you understand what the needs are, because it's like CIP, you understand what the needs are because you go in there, they come in with their need, and then you talk to them, and then through discussions, you might change some things, you know?
Mhm.
But that's why it's tough to make those decisions right then. You have to get
And-
all the information.
We don't have to. Well, what I do when I do these things is to see is everybody thinking about this? Or, you know, do we have a leaning or a not leaning in the beginning and the end? And so we keep it up and we keep it discussing and keep it going. So.
Hand raised over there.
Oh, Tammy, yes.
I just want to add that the town hall cleaning issue was an ongoing personnel matter, which is why you didn't see anything in any minutes anywhere and why we didn't share anything with you. And as you know, I've been stuck home with COVID for the past 10, 11 days and 4 hours and 36 minutes. So I wasn't even aware that that is coming to a head, which is fantastic to hear. So I understand your frustration. However, that is one that we couldn't have really clued you in, even if we wanted to, because it was an ongoing and active personnel matter.
And I'm not frustrated. It's sort of like setting a tone and a philosophy for moving forward, that we have a lot of back and forth two-way discussions about things that, let me put this, when I'm thinking, I have to think, what's in the best interest of the town? So it's almost like, well, what's in the best interest of the committee to know? And so, and again, what happens is, so you don't get surprised when you're out on the street somewhere and somebody says, do you know about this and that? You go, no, I didn't know that. I go, well, wait a minute, you're on the budget committee, how come you didn't know that? So we have a responsibility to keep up on things. And at the same time, I'm asking, I think the town and whomever, the department heads or whatever, has a responsibility to fill us in on things that are in our best interest.
Just, it's in order to keep the legal budget down, it's in the town's best interest to not talk about personnel issues in public meetings. So that fact's not going to change.
Right. But Susan,
Motion to adjourn?
Susan, aren't you cold?
Yeah.
That Clearbrook. Yeah.
Oh, I have my own sunshine in the middle of the parking lot.
And real quick, before we adjourn, we don't thank Jonna enough for all she does to keep our budget safe, organized, and
You're absolutely right.
together. And Jonna, I appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jonna.
Thank you.
Paul, have
I'm
a-
very happy that we have a new town manager.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's pretty awesome, isn't she?
She
Yes.
does, yeah.
I think we'll keep her for a while.
I
We-
think
we-
Karina will do a good job for us.
Okay,
All in favor?
okay, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Bye.
thank you, everyone.